Hi, welcome to Craigmillar Castle. My name is Sam Thompson. I'm an Edinburgh tour guide and I've been a tour guide for over 23 years and I guide all over Scotland. And today we're at one of my favourite castles, Craigmillar. It's known as Edinburgh's other castle. It's also where I got married, but don't talk to me about that because it was the worst wedding ever. But anyway, we'll get onto that another day. Now, Craigmillar is 3 miles southeast of Edinburgh city centre, so it's really easy to get to, but it's often overlooked because people just don't realise it's here. I love this. You can see the tree, so the wall's just kind of giving way to the tree. I think it's a sycamore, I'm not quite sure. There's lots of really old trees around here, part of the original parklands and things that were here. Now, Craigmillar is one of the most completely preserved medieval castles in Scotland, and the tower house, the bit kind of the highest point, that's the tower house, that dates back to the 1300s. Craigmillar actually came to life as a tower house for Sir Simon Preston, one of the lines of the Preston lines who played quite a large part in civic life in Edinburgh over the centuries. Now there is a gift shop, there's toilets, when you buy your ticket you get the code for the toilets, part of Historic Scotland, Historic Environment Scotland, so the easiest way to, or the cheapest way to visit if you're going to be here for about a week is to buy an Explorer Pass. Now, as I said, Craigmillar came to life as a tower house, then Sir Simon Preston's grandson, William Preston, was responsible for more construction in the 1440s. But we'll see that when we get in. We're looking straight towards Arthur's Seat. Can't quite see it from the tree, but when we get to the top of the castle you'll get a good look. And then you've got the parklands here, and then in the distance you've got the Firth of Forth leading out to the North Sea, and you can see Fife. And here you can see the entrance to the castle. So this is just above the entrance to the West Garden, and as you can see it says 1510. You've got the 3 unicorns of the Preston, and if you can't work it out still, underneath you have a press and a ton. Preston. Now for the Outlander fans, you'll also recognise this part of Craigmillar Castle, because this is where Jamie and Lord John had a rather fiery discussion, shall we say. Now you can see a P cut into the grass, and you can see the shield with the unicorns. Right, so through the archway there is the inner courtyard. We're in the outer courtyard at the moment. I'm just going to take us round to have a little look at an extension that was built for the private chapel of the Prestons, and there's a well. We get quite nice views as well. Now the fantastic thing about this castle is it's also been used for filming recently. We have had Outlander and Outlaw King, and it was great to see the place being used like that. Now just over here, unfortunately I can't get you too close to it, but that round tower is actually the Ducat, or the pigeon loft. So that's where the pigeon house, dove house. Yeah, you always had a fresh meat supply with pigeons, so every big house castle would have its own Ducat, and they could hold up to like 500 birds if you got a double one, 1,000. So yes, it's hard to imagine that pigeon back in the day was one of the the easiest and cheapest forms of meat. Right, unfortunately I can't get you back because the gate is shut, but we can see the chapel from this side. It's in ruin. There are burials that you can see within the walls. You can't actually get into it physically, but you can see through to it. But yeah, you can see this inner curtain wall. You've got the gun loops on the outside. Then you've got the entrance over there to the west garden and the west range, which was built much later. And then the little doorway in the distance there, that takes you to what was the toilet, well, what is the toilets now, but behind it there was a chapel, there was a little church there. Now if you look up, you can see the Preston coat of arms. The shield in the middle has 3 unicorns on it. There's a unicorn above and lions on either side. If you go to the garden, in the west garden, they actually have unicorns cut into the grass, so you can actually see them on the ground as you walk around. So that's us just going into the inner courtyard. We have this beautiful yew tree. So anyone that's watched Outlander will recognise this area right away, but this is the tower house just in front of us. It's about 17 metres high and the walls are about 3 metres thick. And there we have the west range that was built, sort of one of the last areas to be built. Now unfortunately there's still parts that we can't actually gain access to, and the west range here is one of them. So you've got like the Great Hall just in here. And there would have been floors above as well, so we're standing in what was the kitchen, and then behind was a chamber. Now, at one point this was actually a stable as well. If you look up here, you can see where the joist would have been to hold the floor above us up. And as we look at the ground here, you can see there's actually a channel for liquids to run off. And there's a drain that's kind of blocked up over here. You just come down, you can just see the top of it. There would have been a drain down there to let all that out. This was also used as a kitchen, and that's why it's got such a large fireplace. Absolutely huge. Yeah. So just off the kitchen is this little rounded tower, and we'll see that from the top as we explore the castle. Craigmillar is a beautiful castle. It's one of the best preserved medieval castles in Scotland. So if you do get the chance to come to Edinburgh, it's definitely worth taking the taxi or getting the bus and walking up the hill. Here you can see the coat of arms again, with the 3 unicorns. Now, Craigmillar was actually taken by the English in May 1544, and it was basically pretty much destroyed. And then there was a rebuilding, made uninhabitable, shall we say. And when the rebuilding started in the 1550s, here we are in one of the cellars. It's just a lovely barrel vaulted roof, and you can see where there would have been a floor above us. Now the cellar would have been used for storage for rents that would have been paid with grain and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, I can't take you any further because you can see we've still got the danger of loose masonry. But just here where the archway is, that's the original entrance to the castle. And the entrance was on a rocky outcrop, so it was easy to defend. You could knock away any wooden stairs or anything you had there to get into the castle. So hopefully if you do get to visit Craigmillar, you'll actually get to see slightly more than we're seeing today. Now after Craigmillar was damaged by the English visit, a series of construction took place, and that's when the East Range and the inner courtyard was built. Now if you see ropes on a staircase like this, use them because they will save your life. Turnpike staircases are treacherous, shall we say. They can be very, very dangerous, so don't be shy, just use it. Here we are in another kitchen. Now we're in the tower house. You can see where the fireplace was, and that gap there is where the bread oven was. Can't really see in, but yeah. Now there is a story about Mary Queen of Scots staying here in this room, but this is unlikely. She most likely would have had a suite of rooms where she stayed in the new range. So you can see the floorings where there would have been another floor. We have a minstrel's gallery behind us, and this is what it would have looked like in its heyday. This is quite an impressive fireplace. And this is where I got married. Yeah, it was such a shame. I had it booked for 2 years. Then Historic Scotland, in their wisdom, decided they wanted to make some money, so they rented the castle and its grounds out to a film crew 2 weeks before the wedding. And they were still filming when it was time for the wedding. So there was all sorts of plastic matting on the grass, ruining the grass, props and things, yeah. And what did Historic Scotland do by way of an apology? They gave me a refund on the spot and did nothing else. Ruined my wedding. And this is the pantry or the buttery, just off the main hall. Right, let's see if we can get the light to adjust slightly. So we can see shelves. And then the door out to the main hall again. Now window seats were where you would sit, you would read because you're getting natural light, you would do your embroidery, all that kind of thing. A place to relax and a place to chat. Right, so we are at the top of the castle. The views are spectacular. Now it is a bit windy and there's not a lot I can do about that noise, so you'll just have to forgive me. Yeah, not often you get to see the roof. Okay, it's modern slabs that are covering it, but you get the idea. And then we can see down into the inner courtyard, and then the outer courtyard, and the Ducat. Absolutely beautiful views from up here. And we get a beautiful view of Arthur's Seat. Yeah, the peak 822 feet above sea level. It's an extinct volcano. The ridge to the left is Salisbury Crags. It's a dolerite intrusion, so a different geological feature altogether. And then you've got Edinburgh Castle perched on the plug, one of the vents for the Arthur's Seat volcano. And you can see the old town there. You've got the tall steeple, the black steeple, that's the hub. You can see the open crown spire of St Giles, and actually I think that's the clock of the Balmoral. But anyway, you can see right down the Royal Mile over to Fife, and then right round you can see the Pentland Hills, and you can see Hill End Dry Ski Slope, and that's where we learned to ski, on nylon bristle. And when you fall on that, it burns, it's nasty. But what I love from up here is we can actually look down on the West Garden, and you can see the Preston coat of arms, the 3 unicorns cut into the grass. I really like the way they've done that. I think it's really good. And then we're looking down into the West Range, where we weren't able to actually access today because of the loose masonry. So you can see the fireplace, you can see the size of the windows. It was definitely a statement piece. Now when the property eventually gets given over to the Gilmores, they buy it, they do a little bit of work on it, but by the time you get to the early 1700s, fashions have changed and people no longer want to live in these old drafty, old-fashioned castles. You know, they want to up their status with the modern houses and things, so that's when it kind of stopped being used as a family residence. Then eventually it falls into decline and then comes into the hands of Historic Scotland, who then take it into their care and start to look after it, and that's why we have access to it today. Even though Historic Scotland ruined my wedding, they do some really brilliant work looking after all these sites that would otherwise just disappear. Now away in the distance, that's East Lothian, and you can see Berwick Law. So yeah, we're still looking at the West Range, and we're just looking straight down into the parts we couldn't get into. And just underneath us, you can start to see there's a rocky outcrop there, and that's where the original entrance was. We're at the very top of the castle. This originally would have had a roof, and here you can see, I don't know, could be a latrine, somewhere for you to go privately. But you can see there's a fireplace here, there's windows, and you can see the line of the roof. And we're just going to catch glimpses of the fish pond. So there would have been a beautiful formal garden here, and the fish pond, which is in the centre of the screen, it's P-shaped for Preston, so it was a P-shaped fish pond. And there you've got the East Range. And that's more likely where Mary Queen of Scots had her apartments when she stayed here. I think she stayed here twice. Now we're just looking over the chapel. You can actually see into it from here. When I first tried to show you it, we couldn't get in, but you can see in from here. And then just in the grass there, that building is actually where you can buy your tickets, and they've got teas, coffees, ice creams, a little souvenir shop, that type of thing. Right. So this is the gallery. I'll turn around in a second. You can see we've got some steps going down that take you down the southeastern corner. Hello! That's where we were right at the beginning. There's How did I get here? I came down the big stairs. Right, so we're in the gallery with my children or grandchildren, finding places to hide in the castle. Now the gallery itself, this is where you would hang all your very expensive artwork. It's where you would walk back and forward for exercise, walking up and down on wet days, playing music, playing cards. Mary Queen of Scots was supposed to be a skilled musician, so she may well have played here to entertain while she was on her stay in 1566. But yeah, so you can see we've got fireplace here. And that's us looking down into the inner courtyard. We'll just head up these steps. It's a great castle because you can get onto the roof, you can get onto the bits you normally don't get to. But if you're not into heights, I would say, you know, maybe avoid this bit. So we're on one of the round towers. And then down here, unfortunately we couldn't get into it, but you can see how the garden would have looked. It would have had plants, not just cut into the grass, but geometric planting was very, very common and fashionable back in the day. Right, let's head along to the end here and have a look. Oh, big bee. So this is where the Craigmillar bond was signed, and that was the agreement to murder Lord Darnley by some of Mary Queen of Scots supporters. Now, did she know about it? We'll never know. Some say yes, some say no. You just have to read some books and make your own mind up on that one. But yeah, Darnley had served his purpose and was nothing but a liability by this point to the Queen. So yeah, unfortunately his murder was botched. It wasn't done very well. That's a story for another day, and a good how not to murder a Queen's husband. Now the Prestons were strong supporters of Mary Queen of Scots, and they were loyal supporters, and unfortunately when it came to the end for Mary, when she was finally captured, her first night in captivity was actually in Simon Preston's Edinburgh townhouse. She had made him Lord Provost of Edinburgh, and in the end he had to be her jailer, which must have been a really awful thing to have to do. So she stayed the night there and then was taken to Lochleven Castle. I'll do a video on Lochleven at some point so you can have a little look at it. Right, well, it's been a beautiful day here. I'm so glad we got to see it like now. I really hope you enjoyed that quick look at Craigmillar Castle. I haven't shown you everything. You want to leave something for you to explore when you get here. But if you get the chance, it is definitely one of the castles that I would recommend coming to. I know I had a bad experience here with my wedding, but you know, after about 20 years, I'm kind of getting over it now. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Subscribe, like, and put some comments in for me if you have any questions. Right, see you on the next one. Bye.